You will not see the end of this day. Thunder take you.
Round 1. Fight! Finish him!
Yes! Let's go. Yes.
Rayden wins. Fatality.
Hey guys, welcome back. Trey Keys here with your standard issue. Today we'll be talking about Mortal Kombat, and we have my uncle, who's a longtime fan of the franchise, Uncle John. Welcome to the channel.
How y'all doing, everybody? What's good? What's good? I'm glad to be on the Trey Show. No one had ever seen anything like Mortal Kombat before. Like, we had different kind of fighters, but nothing that was realistic, where you can see blood and guts, and then for them to come around and say, hey, we're releasing a movie. So my expectations were through the roof. I was like, this is going to be amazing. I'm going to have to sneak into the theater or do something to go see this movie, because I know my mom's not going to take me to go see it. Like, this is going to be... an extremely violent movie. But yeah, I was juiced for it. I couldn't wait.
It was PG-13, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And I guess, honestly, at that time, that probably was a sign that it wasn't going to be as bloody as the games.
Correct. Correct. Like I said, the first hype of it was like, this is going to be amazing. I can't wait. And then come to find out, like you said, it was PG-13. And I didn't know at the time that it was going to be a completely different Mortal Kombat than what I was expecting. Going
into it, like, I know I wasn't as familiar with the lore of the Mortal Kombat world, how it works, how they had to fight and win exactly like 9 tournaments, the different realms, and how some characters seem like they're from different period pieces. You have Scorpion and Sub-Zero, who kind of feel like they're from feudal Japan. And then you have like Sonya Blade, who's obviously from modern day, Lui Kang at the Shaolin Temple and all of that. And so I didn't go into it fully understanding all of the lore. And there's some things too that happen that if you are familiar with it, you get a little annoyed by, just because you're like, okay, that's not how that works. That's not correct either. You guys are making this stuff up on the fly. and you can kind of tell that the movie is based off of that system of like, we're just making stuff up in order to get to the end. But I don't know, it still leaves an impact in a way, and I feel like it is definitely probably one of the best video game movies that have ever come out, even with it still being just kind of a okay thing, which is weird to say.
I felt like they didn't know what the story was when they made the movie, honestly. I believe they had the game, and they knew the levels and how it worked, and they're just like, hey, we need to actually make a story that kind of makes sense from this game. So I felt the same way as you. Like, there was no backstory. Like, when you're playing the game, like, you started, it's like, okay, you're fighting in a tournament. Like, you don't know what's happening. And when we got the movie, like I said, no one cared about Liu Kang and Katana and all this. Everyone just wanted to see the ninjas.
Yeah.
Go at it and do some things, see some people get killed. That was the whole thing. And then they came with this whole story, and we're just like, okay, like, I mean, this kind of makes sense. You know,
right.
Video game, going through the towers, you got to fight these people. So it definitely felt like they were making it up as they go. But as you said, I do think they did a pretty good job considering the source material that they had. Like, they didn't really have much. Just
yeah.
Like, okay, we'll fight them to the death.
Yeah.
What can you make out of this, you know?
Yeah, and especially if you're a fan of if you're a fan of Scorpion and Sub-Zero, and the way they're introduced in the movie, yeah, it's cool, but, they're like on the same side, and they're both fighting for Outworld. I mean, Shang Sung mentions that, they're slaves to his power, but you're still kind of like, man, this is some BS.
the whole reason you want to go see the movie, you want to see them fight.
Yeah.
I want to see you fight. And they're on the same squad, and you're just like, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Because they, to me, in the original Mortal Kombat, they were the coolest characters.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong, Shang Sung was cool because he could turn into everyone. But Scorpion and Sub-Zero was kind of like, okay, like you knew everybody else. You knew Lui Kang, he was a monk. You knew Sonya, she was from the military. And Kano, like these are all people. But it's like, hey, why do you have this yellow ninja and he can throw stuff out of his hands and turn into a skull? Like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, you have another ninja that can freeze people and rip their heads off. Like, I want to know more about this.
Yeah. And they have arguably the most compelling backstories. And yet, they're just completely like, hey, just forget about that stuff.
Forget about it. So it was kind of like, okay, like, I see what's happening. I don't understand why it's happening. And like, I understand Liu Kang, okay, he won the tournament, but no one cares. Like,
Yeah.
We're not here for this. But like you said, I think they just had to make it up as they go. Like, hey, we made this game to fight to the death. You know, this guy wins the tournament. Let's try to make it all make sense. Make it the best that they could.
Yeah. And I would even say too, like there's some writing in there that's just kind of like, okay, just trying to move the story along. You know, somebody will do this or say this to this one person, and then they're set up for the tournament essentially. Like I loved how Johnny Cage's character is introduced. I felt like Liu Kang's character, he didn't have the coolest introduction, but the introduction to Shang Sung was awesome. You know, being at the Shaolin temple, and he has his brother, and he's like, your brother's soul is mine. And you're like, oh, dude. Like, you know, like he is actually menacing. I mean, his part is so iconic in that movie that they even brought him back for MK, I think 11 for the DLC characters. Like they literally have the same shots of him from that movie doing that. And it's
the best part of the movie. He was basically the best part of the movie.
Yep. He even said all the iconic lines too.
Yeah. And then I also felt like I'm not sure if he was racist or prejudiced, but it seemed like he only loved black souls. Because anybody else, he didn't take anyone else's souls except for black guys. So, like, maybe he doesn't like the taste of other people's souls, but those are the only ones he's taking. He took Liu Kang's brother's soul, and then the rest were just three black guys. Just like, the other souls aren't as good. But yeah, he was the best part of the movie. Like him, and then the Goro animation, kind of actual physical special effects instead of the digital stuff. I think they did a pretty good job considering the time that the movie came out. Yeah,
and it's funny too, because about Goro is that a lot of people seem to give that a lot of flack or something, like because they don't think the animatronics on it look as good. And I'm personally, I think they look really good.
So for 96 technology, that looked awesome. Like I said, I just seen it a few days ago, and like you said, you feel the weight, you feel the girth, you feel the dirtiness, the strangeness of it. And I mean, it doesn't look perfect, but it looks like, hey, this dude is big and menacing, and if he get a hold of you, he's gonna hurt you.
Right.
So that's the idea that came away from that.
You get to see Goro in 2 fights. Well, I mean, technically there's also a montage in there too, but there's 2 fights. One with the black dude, which is like the first black dude, he gets his soul taken out. And then you see he's like trying his best to like stick and move, and it's just having no effect on this dude. And he like breaks him, just done. But then Johnny Cage steps up to him and does away with him pretty easy. He goes straight for the nuts, and it's totally his character, and takes him out. And you're like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. It was perfect.
It didn't make sense, but it kind of didn't, because it's like, okay, Goro went through like 20, 30 people, right? Like he was going through people so fast, they were just showing cutscenes of people falling.
Yeah.
So he fights Johnny Cage, and Johnny Cage literally beats him in 4 moves. He punches him in his balls. After that, he kicks him in the face, and then he roundhouses him, and then it's over.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's pretty convenient. Like the way you killed him. I mean, it had to go for the story. Like, how else could he even beat because otherwise they couldn't kill them off.
Yeah.
But it was pretty like, okay, that's the way he's gonna die.
Yeah. And it was stuff like that too. Is just how smart Johnny Cage comes across. I felt like this movie made him a good lead. They even had him fight against Scorpion, and the fight with Scorpion was awesome. I mean, in this version, he has like some sort of tentacle monster or whatever that comes out of his. Which, I mean, I don't know if that's correct in some version of it or something, but yeah, he was using that. It doesn't look nowhere near as good as I gotta say, like, just the original kunai, which is very simple but gets the job done. The way Johnny Cage beats him is straight from the game. He even leaves his photo behind signed Johnny Cage.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think that whole sequence was the best sequence of the movie. It basically showed Mortal Kombat. You know, they start off, they're in the forest. Don't get me wrong, the little thing coming out of his hand was kind of strange because we didn't see that. In the game, you know, he threw it, it wasn't alive or anything. So that was kind of strange, but they wanted to have some kind of shot back and forth. At least that's what I felt. Right. But the fight felt very Mortal Kombat. I thought it was the best fight in the whole movie. Yeah. They start off with teleports. That's one of Scorpion's moves. They end up in Scorpion's lair, kind of Outworld thing. And as far as the mechanics and the choreographing, I felt like it was the best fight in the movie. And it was the only fight. I mean, I guess the other ones were fatalities, but this was like a Mortal Kombat fatality. Yeah. Like that fatality that they had, you could actually put in the new game, and people would still be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Right. Yeah, and then like it was a fatality with the friendship because he left the thing. So I'm like, they doing friendship fatalities, so it was pretty awesome. That part I will agree. Yeah. I think without that, the movie probably would have bombed. Without that scene. I think so too, because I know with Lui Kang and Sonya, both of them have some fights, but some of them are kind of weak. So like Sonya Blade's fight with Kano, as much as I wanted to be pumped for that, just the way they show it, she doesn't seem as much of a combatant as Lui Kang or Johnny Cage. I mean, she's fighting, sure, but she's supposed to be one of the best fighters ever. And yet I've seen UFC fighters with more skill. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think that they were the weakest links. It felt like Liu Kang's best move was getting kicked in the face and flip it. Yeah. Like he would get the face and do like a 460 spin fall. Like that was his trademark. Like every fight he got in, he'd get kicked in the face. Right. He'd spin like 6 times before he hit the ground. It's like, okay, like you should be the best. He's getting beat up. Like, and Sonya's fights weren't that impressive. I really didn't enjoy their fights at all, period. I thought they were trash. Like I said, the Johnny Cage fight, even Shang Sung's fight at the end with Liu Kang was better than Liu Kang's other fights. So yeah. It's like, okay, I need a little bit more. Like Liu Kang's fight with Sub-Zero, I think the way it started off, it was interesting enough, but the way it ended with the bucket of water thing. No. Like why would Sub-Zero stay there and take that? Right. He can control ice and water. Like, why would he sit there and just take that? Well, he was charging it up. He was you can see him charging it for like 10 minutes, which the Sub-Zero has never needed to do that. When he's charging this huge thing that's like creating a dome, and you know, Liu Kang is like, oh yeah, that thing the girl said about using the element which brings life. Though I'm not sure if that's what she meant. Was like, hey, throw a bucket of water at him. But it's for some reason creates like a spear of ice that it doesn't make any sense. But I think they were like doing reverse storytelling. Like, hey, we have this, but we have to make it somehow make sense, and we have to make it PG. at the same time. Like, we can't just have Liu Kang kill this guy.
Right.
Kill him. We have to kill him where it's PG-13. It still looks kind of cool. It kind of makes sense. Like, this is the best that we can come up with.
I guess they showed it at least stylistically, but for the most part, it ends up being a weak fight. His fight with Katana is also very weak. Like, probably, I would say even worse than Sonya's fight with Kano. And it's just a lot of flipping over each other. And I mean, I get that they were trying to set it up so that they didn't end up killing each other because they're going to team up later, but it's almost like, why did they bring Katana to this tournament if she wasn't going to participate?
Exactly. I know playing Mortal Kombat, you never see fights end in draw. Their fight ended in a draw. It got stopped. To me, it was a wasted scene. Like you said, they could have had that in another way to make it make sense. But they were just trying to, hey, we got to get through this movie. Make it happen. There's money on the line. There
becomes a point in the story too where you can tell they're just trying to wrap things up.
Yeah.
And I guess so. After Johnny Cage beats Goro, all of a sudden Shang Sung is like, "Oh crap, I'm scared now, and I need to cheat to win this tournament. So I'm gonna kidnap Sonya Blade, take her to Outworld." Where we will then have the last fight and she has to accept my challenge, otherwise you guys lose.
Yeah.
And you're just sitting there like,
what's happening?
Does this make any sense at all?
Yeah.
Like, this is an actual rule in Mortal Kombat, or are they just making this up? And they're definitely making it up, because it's not a real thing.
Yeah, they're definitely making it up. Like I said, man, I feel like, you know, they were given the ball. They had the project, like, hey, we have to make this movie. We have to do it within PG-13. It has to make some kind of sense. But I feel like this movie was very important to Mortal Kombat because I felt like after they did this movie, even the second one, I felt like they felt like, hey, we need to go back and tighten up this story. We need to actually put into some effort into making the story, you know, credible, making it make sense. Making it more enjoyable. So I don't think we would have had the Mortal Kombat 9, or we would have had, you know, how good Mortal Kombat is now if these movies were never created. And like you said, the thing with Shang Sung, like, what kind of rule is this?
Right.
Like, you can win Mortal Kombat by fighting against someone that doesn't want to fight, and they don't fight, and they forfeit to win Mortal Kombat. That's just stupid. Right,
like why was she chosen to even be a part of this tournament if she's not gonna want to fight later? Like, that makes no sense. Rayden has horrible taste when it comes to choosing warriors, because some of these people don't make sense. Johnny Cage, okay, I get, because he actually had some mad skill. Liu Kang, okay, yeah, he's also a good choice. But Sonya is like, I feel like you guys picked her because you needed a damsel in distress. And I don't know if it's because it was a trope of the 90s or what, but I literally, she becomes a damsel by the end of the movie. You know, she's like wearing like a skimpy outfit, she's chained up, and they're like, yeah, you gotta accept my challenge. And then she's like, my friends are gonna come for me. And Johnny Cage is like,
they're already here.
They take off their hoods, and they're like, wait a minute, they were there the whole time? What? When?
Like, how'd y'all even get in here? But like I said, a lot of it didn't make sense. It's like, you guys are just pulling this out of nowhere. It just literally didn't make sense.
Yeah.
Literally didn't make sense.
You know, there was even I mean, I will say that I liked the final fight between Liu Kang and Shang Tsung. I thought that was an awesome fight, visually.
Yeah.
You know, it was very artistic, and even the way he killed him at the very end was very in touch with one of the levels of the video game with the spikes coming out of the ground. It had a nice little wrap up. All in all, maybe some bad special effects here and there, especially with Reptile. Like, yeah, that was some Nintendo graphics right there with Reptile.
Yeah, I mean, they did the best they could. I enjoyed the last fight too. Like I said, it did some homage. Like, it didn't show him actually change into another fighting style and start fighting with that. But he made the other people come out of nowhere and start fighting. I thought that was kind of weird.
Yeah, but I thought that was a good little extra something there.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of weird though that they were taking turns coming at him. Like, why didn't they just all come at him at once?
Right.
But it's a movie.
What's that they say in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles where they practice the one at a time fighting style?
I forgot what style that is. Yeah. It's like I said, especially like I remember when I seen it the first time. I paid money to see it, went into the theater. I enjoyed it. I remember I was upset because I didn't get to see as many fatalities as I wanted to. And then there wasn't a lot of gore. But I felt at that time we had no story at all, period.
Right.
So this just made you understand the game a little bit more. Like, hey, you know, these people are important. They have backstories. This is some real stuff going on, you know?
Yeah.
So at that particular time, I was like, okay, I enjoyed it, you know?
Okay. And for me, this first one definitely serves as a guilty pleasure. It's one of those movies that, you know, it's not like gonna win any kind of awards, but you still really like it for your own like personal reasons. You still coming back to watch it, even though you know there's some stuff that definitely needs some work.
Exactly. So I have two ratings I want to give. Like, if I was someone that never played the video game, I don't recommend do this movie. I'm going to give it a way below standard.
Yes.
If you've never played Mortal Kombat, there's no point in you watching this movie because you're just going to be confused and you're like, what's going on? If you have played Mortal Kombat, then I'm going to give it above standard.
Okay.
If you have played Mortal Kombat, you really need to see the Mortal Kombat movie. It just all connects. You get a laugh, you get some chuckles, you'll understand like, oh, okay, this came from this game, or this level came from this game, or this is why those people are weird, you know?
Right.
So in that aspect, that's how I would rate it.
Okay. I think I would go the same way, even jumping between way below and way above. Way below because, yes, as you said, from an outsider coming to watch this is absolutely a terrible movie. It's embarrassing. It's that bad. It doesn't hold up as a movie, let alone a video game movie. But on the other side of things, way above, because obviously as a fan, even though the source material is clearly off, it's still very nostalgic. It still makes you want to see it multiple times. It's been out, it came out in the 90s, and I've still seen it multiple times since then. And so obviously it has a warm place in my heart. Despite it having its flaws. Thanks for watching, guys. You should subscribe if you haven't already. Ring my bell if that's what you're into. Be sure to like, share, and comment below. I'm Trey Keys.
I'm John.
And this is just a standard issue.